Alright guys, this is the 2019 Trek Remedy 8. It is an aluminum model. We just got it built up a few days ago and I just barely got it home into the basement. So this is an overview, not a review. I'm going to say that right up front. I've ridden this thing basically around the shop. I've got it fit up to me, and that's really all I can comment on in terms of what's in front of me and what the specs are. So we've got 160 millimeters of travel in the front, 150 millimeters in the rear. This bike has kind of a moderate reach. It's a 19.5. In the low setting, I think we're looking at a 455 millimeter reach and a 461 in the high setting. So not a real long bike, really kind of conservative. For me, that's a good thing. If you look at my rad measurement or rider area distance, there's an article on Pink Bike on this measurement that basically goes from your bottom bracket to your bars. And if you look at that measurement, this bike is like almost exactly perfect. The stashes as well, which is probably why I've done so well on Trek bikes in the past. So sitting on this bike, riding it around, it fits me really well. And the nice thing is, you know, I could go for a longer bike and that'll be more stable in the downhills for sure, especially at high speeds. But you know, I do some high speeds, I do a lot of technical riding, I do a lot of climbing. I wanted a bike that was a little bit more well-rounded, and on paper this should fit the bill for me. So we've got a RockShox Lyric RC in the front, a RockShox Deluxe RT3 in the back with the reactive damper from Trek. That should give a really good pedaling platform. Major changes they've made to this bike, so it's pretty much the same bike as you guys have seen since 2017. We have the straight shot down tube and we have the knock block stem. Not super stoked about the knock block. I do think the straight shot down tube looks cool, and the knock block, I haven't been able to hit it yet, so we'll see if that becomes an issue in the future. But for the most part, I just don't like the idea of it being proprietary. But major changes to this year's model, this is what makes this a new model, is it's got a solid mount on the frame for your rear shock. They went away from the full floater, which is where the shock was attached to the seat stays essentially, and that gave them more bottomless feel, but they claim that air shocks have gotten so good they don't need it, so they've gotten rid of it. And I think it looks better. It also makes the chain stays stronger, which I think is a really good plus. And you know, other than that, that's the big component change to the frame. The other big change, the one that really matters in terms of fit, is that they've steepened the seat tube angle, so should be able to run a longer dropper on here. I have 150 millimeter Bontrager dropper on there, comes stock, and I've got it slammed in the frame at 5'11". That's exactly where it needs to be, which is awesome. But if your legs are a little bit shorter than mine, you might run into trouble. The Remedy's always had kind of a long seat tube. Steeping it up has made it better this year, as you can insert the dropper post further, but it's still pretty long. So not an exceptionally steep seat tube either, but I've got fairly long femurs for how long my legs are, and then my legs are fairly short. So I don't tend to need a super steep seat tube angle, but for some of you guys, that's going to be a downside. We got a GX Eagle drivetrain, we got SRAM guide R brakes, 200 mil rotor in the front, 180 in the rear. I think it's going to do just fine. We have Bontrager tires on there. I have considered swapping over to Maxxis, but I think after seeing these, I'm going to give them at least a proper go and see how they do. I've liked Bontrager tires in the past. I do want this bike to be a bit more aggressive. That's kind of the point of getting this one. And so if they don't have good enough braking for me or good enough cornering, I may switch out to a Maxxis Minion. Maybe DHF front, DHR rear, we'll see. Otherwise, I'm running Crank Brothers Mallet E pedals. This bike doesn't come with pedals, so you got to pick some. I decided to go clipless this year as I might race this bike, and I'm probably going to be riding it on rougher, rockier terrain, so that'll help me keep my feet on the pedals. And I'm running my Ergon SME3 Pro saddle. So Bond Trigger saddles are fine, but the Ergons are definitely better for me. In terms of what I'm going to do with this bike, so you know, guys, I've always ridden hardtails. I've had one full suspension, but it was kind of a janky, cobbled together 2004 Cannondale Jekyll. Cool bike, not an everyday bike. I think I rode it like 100 miles because you could only ride it in very short periods of time. Otherwise, I've ridden hardtails plus hardtails, and really I'm all about getting out the backcountry, doing bike packing stuff. This one, I'm not going to be doing like overnights on it, I don't think, for the most part. If I do, they're going to be semi-supported, so I'm going to have someone meet me somewhere at camp, and I'm going to carry my own gear for the day. But for the most part, the idea is I'm going to do big day rides. So I did a lot of big gravel races last year. This year, I'm thinking more along the lines of mountain biking, big trails, trying to clear as much stuff as possible. I want to do more sections on the Arizona Trail as well, but I want to ride as much of it as I can. I don't want to spend a ton of time pushing my bike. So the idea is I'll do big days on the trail, and I think the full suspension is just going to be more comfortable for me. At this point, you know, in my life, I'm kind of thinking it'll just be a little bit nicer, and I think I can do a little bit longer days, more back-to-back days on the full suspension, and I think it'll be a bit more enjoyable that way. So that's kind of the idea, but definitely not becoming an enduro bro, although I do like enduro. We'll probably race enduro. It's a super fun category, but for the most part, I'm going to be using this for you know, big adventure day rides. That is the 2019 Trek Remedy 8. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you have anything you're wondering about and you would like to see in a future review, put that in the comments below, and I'll be working on, as I do my review, include some of the things you guys are interested in. So that's about it. We'll catch you later.